really inspired with everything that you do. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're a parent. I know you're born and raised in Alberta. What are the benefits of having this young workforce?
Oh, it's vibrant. Your workplace is vibrant. It's exciting. We have such a wonderful environment for people to work in. 40% of our customers ask if they can have a job with us. It's the joy and the environment. People can see the culture we have through our social media. Any business can make a beautiful culture.
Thank you so much for coming to be part of the Business Catalyst program video series. Excited to have this conversation with you. Maybe to start with, I'd love to hear a little bit around your business and really what created you to take this risk and have this business.
I grew up farming. I grew up in a farm family. We had a cattle farm where we had our own beef cattle, and we raised the calves on the farm and made our own hay. So I was born and raised in a seasonal agricultural business. And so when I had a young family, we were also doing that. So I was doing that with my husband, and it was really great until it wasn't great. And what was a huge challenge being a parent and farming was I couldn't do the things on the farm that I had done before. You just can't. You can't put 4 car seats in a tractor. Life doesn't work that way. Any farming family knows that someone has to be responsible for childcare and someone needs to be out in the field. And I really knew what kind of parent I wanted to be. I had really strong values. So I wanted to be able to raise my kids myself. And the idea of getting a greenhouse was brought to me by a friend who had one. And she said, this would be a really great addition to your farm. And that was what kickstarted it.
Did you say 4 car seats?
4 kids.
You have 4 kids.
I have
okay.
4 kids.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a really large contributor to any of the decisions you're going to be making when it came to your professional life.
Yeah, I didn't have a daycare nearby. That didn't exist in rural Alberta at that time.
Right.
So we're talking almost 25 years ago.
Right.
And then I didn't have grandparents, which would be traditionally leaned on, or family members that could babysit. So the idea of just doing something my own way was really what I wanted to do.
Tell us a little bit about the entire experience of what your greenhouse is.
So we are a seasonal greenhouse. We operate a bedding plant greenhouse, which is traditionally what greenhouses are in Alberta. Open typically end of April. We're open until the end of September. Most would close by July. Our greenhouse is just so much fun. We are huge on fun. Fun is the most important thing. We always say there's no rules for small children except to have fun. Because I had the experience of having 4 small children, shopping in a garden center is extremely difficult.
Right.
Extremely difficult. You can't, there's too many kids for the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Strollers don't usually go in a garden center well. So we knew that we wanted to have a greenhouse where children weren't just welcome but celebrated. And so we have specifically done things in our garden center to make it an enjoyable shopping experience.
Well, it's that notion of experiential retail that you seem to just nail, because it's not enough for us to go and be a distribution center anymore. We have to make that experience one of a kind and smooth and easy. And I love the word fun. That's so perfect. And otherwise, why are we going to do it?
Well, and plants are available in all kinds of locations. Yep. So we are creative. That's how we are. We would be creative no matter what we were doing.
Yeah, and it's also, you hit the nail on the head. It's supposed to be a fun thing.
It should be fun.
It is your business, but it's also something that people enjoy primarily as a hobby. I would assume there's a busy time where you have to employ lots of seasonal people. What sort of roles do you have, and how are you filling those roles?
It's been fantastic. We have such a wonderful environment for people to work in. 40% of our customers ask if they can have a job with us. Greenhouse is different than other agriculture, we realize that, but it's the joy and the environment. People can see the culture we have through our social media. Any business can make a beautiful culture for their team. In our season, we have between 18 and 20 employees. And in our off season, we have one full-time year-round employee besides myself. And then we do have a few people that will help with projects.
Okay. Yeah. I think when we're talking about recruitment and we're talking about how people can to kind of have a glimpse into what the culture looks like, I think you have a really fortunate position where a lot of people can come and actually be a customer before they can be an employee. Mm-hmm. Have you found that you have traditionally have had lots of applications to choose from? Or is it sometimes where you think, I can't find the right skill set to come and work here?
So when you're talking about applications, we have never put an ad out to say that we're hiring.
How are you hiring people then?
So we hire based on personality.
Yep.
And I don't want to get in trouble for saying that, but we are cheerful and we are optimistic. I am that way. Our job's customer service. We need our team to be that way. We don't have infighting because we've always hired on personality. We feel that we can train everything that someone would need to know. And it's not just me training, our whole staff can train once they've been there for a while.
So is it kind of a thing where people are referred?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are referred. One of my hires was a teen girl that worked at a local business, always happy, always smiling every time I went into this business. One time complained she wasn't getting enough hours. She was saving up for a car. She wasn't getting enough hours. I don't know why. She just spilled it one day. And I said, we can book you in at the garden center. We'll work around the schedule here so it doesn't interrupt the hours you are getting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very accommodating that way. But this particular individual was great at her job.
Yeah.
And I thought she'd fit our team well.
It's so interesting when we're talking about hiring for cultural fit versus skills is something that it's a tricky balance, and we always need people who are competent. But it's interesting that you said, I like the word you said, cheerful, and I like that you used the word fun, because these are non-traditional core values, and I think these are we're starting to see a connection point from where people want to choose to spend their time, because I think people will think, well, I don't have to work is only a part of my life, but at the end of the day, you probably spend more time, awake time, with the people you work with than you do your own family. What other sort of core values do you think are resonating so much so with potential applicants or potential people who do want to work with you?
A cheerful personality is really something that I value. Punctuality is good, but not essential. You can't tell that when someone's out shopping. I had a customer shopping one day, and she had a beautiful spreadsheet of all of her planters and what she needed in them. And I looked at it and said, you should work here. That's a skill set we could use some help with.
Yeah.
And she started working with us.
Amazing.
She's been with us a couple of years now.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's also recognizing, where you're lacking in skill sets and bringing in that talent, as random as it might occur.
From my retail background, the amount of times where I would selectively recruit on like a whim, everyone found to be super weird. Like even my family was like, can you not ask our server if they are happy at their current workplace?
You get a feel for when someone just has that spark and that they would really contribute.
Yeah.
We have a group chat for all of our staff. Anyone who's ever worked for us is still in this group chat.
Wow.
And if we ever have someone who can't show up to work, anyone who's ever worked for us can fill that spot that day.
Wow.
So we do some fun events. We do Christmas markets and things. And a lot of the people who have left the garden center over the years are young adults who have gone on to their careers. So we've got lots of girls who've graduated into nursing or business, and they're not available. They're like, we wish we could work at the greenhouse, but we actually have to do real life now. So when we have those special events or someone is sick and can't come in, we'll randomly have someone show up who hasn't maybe worked with us full time in 4 years. And it is so amazing.
Yeah. How do you logistically handle that? Like from a payroll perspective? Like, cause there's so many times cause I worked retail for most of my life at Christmas time. And if I didn't have small children, if there was an opportunity to just go back and work the week of Christmas, I would say yes almost every time.
Yep.
But logistically, like we can't keep your SIN number and all that sort of stuff. So how do you handle that?
So anyone who makes less than $1,000 a year, you don't have to put them in your payroll system.
Oh, okay.
That's just a thing.
Amazing.
I don't know if it's a thing in every industry, but it is for farming.
For farming, okay.
Which we're classified under farming. Anyone who works as a volunteer is covered under WCB. So we have a huge volunteer program as well.
Right.
In our industry, you'd have to check with your own industry.
Okay.
So we have a big volunteer program, which is an amazing way to recruit more people on your team.
And volunteer positions, what do those look like?
They come in for 4 hours, they bring a lunch, they work alongside a team member.
Amazing.
Yeah, they plant for hours.
Right. So it's probably, I'd be curious to know like the makeup of those volunteers. Is there people who wanting work experience, or is it people who are like just wanting to fill their time? Like, what does that look like?
I don't exactly know. Like, we just put it on our website.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, we're launching volunteer days. And within an hour, every single position is scooped up.
Within an hour.
Within an hour. Like, I can't believe how fast it goes.
That is,
And then the phone starts ringing. I'm like, I didn't get a spot. I want to come. I feel bad. Yeah.
We need like 6 more greenhouses to
Maybe
accommodate this.
Maybe I should franchise or something. I don't know.
This is so interesting because you said 2 things that have kind of like, I found to be quite an outlier. One, that you have a group chat of all the employees and they're still active and still so supportive.
And we don't meddle in it. If someone says, hey, I'm sick today, I can't come in, can anyone cover me? We let it sort itself out, and 99% of the time it does. Once in a while, we'll call someone and say, hey, specifically, and say, hey, if you didn't see the group chat, like, could you come in today because so-and-so's sick?
I think anybody who is actually listening to this conversation is extremely jealous of that. That is so unique.
It's a culture that you create,
And
you can create it. You can change things if you don't have that happening already.
Yep.
Yeah, and we just use WhatsApp if anyone's asking, because it works for Samsung and Apple, because some people have Samsung and that's weird, but it works.
Is weird. I'm with you. It's
Doesn't
super weird.
fit in, especially when you have a lot of teens. Yeah. Something else that we do that happened organically, and we don't really know how it started, but we love it, was hiring we mostly have teenage girls. We do have some teenage boys, but mostly teenage girls want to work in a greenhouse, and their mothers.
Right.
Yes.
Of course.
So at one point we had 7 pairs of teenagers and their mom working for us at the garden center.
Very
We have a little
cool.
bit less now, just because kids have graduated and gone on to their careers.
So the shifts would match?
Not always.
Not always. Okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Oh,
Sometimes the shifts would match. What we found really useful is kids have very busy social lives. Like, all the teens that work for us are either in sports or a club, or they babysit their siblings, or they have like commitments outside of work that are prioritized. Like, we work around practice. Like, if kids have practice on Tuesday, maybe they'll work Wednesday, Thursday. We accommodate all of that. You have to.
You have to.
We feel it's respectful to do that. And it's worth it to have these kids working. So when you hire the parent and the kid gets an invite to a birthday party on Saturday and they're scheduled, the mom will cover the shift.
Right.
Mom says, hey, they've got a birthday party. I'll come in for her.
I love that.
And the other way around. Mom has something going on, kid covers the shift.
Yeah. So was that like, did those kind of 7 pairings, did it form coincidentally or was it intentional?
2 things made it happen. PD days. Kids are at home. There's no one to watch them. So mom needs to take it off. I'm like, why not bring the kids to the greenhouse?
Perfect. Yep.
They're like, can I? I'm like, well, why can't you? So that started happening.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, there was a period where there was no school and there was no online school. So kids just came to the greenhouse.
If we're looking at, the data, we're having higher levels of unemployment throughout the country. And a huge portion of that is young Canadians.
It is really hard in the job market. So all my kids have worked with me and continue if we need a hand with something.
Yeah.
Some work with me full time, some just work as needed. I have a son who played club ball and volleyball. He was only available Tuesday evenings and Sundays. I'm like, honey, no one's going to hire you. Like, it's just, that is way too limited. So for sports kids, it's really, really difficult.
Yep.
I have approached multiple ministers with a great idea for a program. I think that there should be an app where kids and employers can sign up, make sure it's all legit, above board. I, as an employer, can offer shifts, like my volunteer days. Kids can sign up in an app because that's their language when they are available. And if independent owners of businesses did that, kids would get opportunities to try out a job.
Yep.
And it would give them confidence to go to interviews.
Yep.
I think that's a real challenge for these kids.
Especially
interviews are very, very scary.
And I think given the pandemic, we have different generations of kids. And when I worked at the university, I worked with a lot of kids who spent their high school online. And so there's a lot of deficits that come with that.
Huge. And we're seeing more. We're
Right.
seeing more of it.
And I think one of the things I'd be curious to get your 2 cents on, because first of all, I love that idea, because when we're looking at, even volunteering, if you look at volunteering, people are like, well, it's dying. Like all those clubs are dying. Like I think we need to reframe what volunteering actually looks like, because the wanting to give back and wanting to do a job is still very much there. But asking people to join a club and show up every second Tuesday of the month, like that doesn't work.
But I think as an employer, we are sort of duty bound to train where we can that next generation. And we can offer things like volunteering.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? You could hire your best employee ever out of a program like that. Why not try it? It's not going to hurt. Make sure that they're covered under WCB for your industry is all you need to do.
And it makes so much sense. And I think that's one of those things that we need to be a bit more creative for those organizations, especially in a rural setting, who don't have instant access to a labor market and who maybe they're not a desirable culture or desirable place to work from that fun angle. What would you say to those sort of business owners?
Go to the local high schools. They want employers in there. They have job fairs, they have career days. You can just have a meeting in a classroom with anyone who's interested and just tell them about your business and offer positions. In our industry for farming, because I'm under the farm umbrella, we do have employment programs where we could get their wages back or part of their wages back. Most farms are sole proprietorship, so we don't qualify for the traditional summer student programs that other businesses would qualify for. So those are available all the time every year. You can apply for those usually by February, March. You need to apply for the summertime. So you could be getting all their wages back. It can all be subsidized by the government if you're not sure where to start with hiring a teenager.
One of the earlier conversations we were having were around how we often will sell a product to a customer or a service to a customer, but we forget to sell the organization and the culture to employees. Yeah, and I think that's something that we overlook. And it's really, it's super unfortunate, because that's how you're going to get the right people. And that way the people feel attracted to your organization, or maybe they don't. And that's also great.
I think something that we do is, because we're a retail business, I could be in an office all day long. There's always enough office work. I could be in an office all day long, sitting outside of where the customers are. But being on the retail floor, that is where you see what's happening. You see the culture. You see how the team is interacting. You see and meet the customers. If you're having trouble recruiting, maybe you put your shoes on the sales floor and see what's happening. Like, where are your challenges? Take your most challenging thing and say, we're going to improve this. Like, really look at it and say, how can we flip this around?
It's one of the things I miss the most about retail, without a doubt.
It's fun.
I miss it. I miss doing like the secret shops and really putting on the lens through our customer, and then being able to put our lens on as an employee and make sure that whole world is really taken into consideration.
I could never have imagined I'd be in a position where if someone couldn't make it into work, that someone would just take their spot for the day and be happy to do it.
I think one of the things that you touched on I thought was so interesting around hiring young people. I'm curious to know if we can dive into that a little bit. I want to know kind of everything around it. I want to know, like, what age do you hire from? How do you pay them? And ultimately, how is it successful? Because right now you're not just running a business, essentially you're training the workforce.
Well, I do have 4 kids of my own, and they're all young adults and still teenagers. So the people that we have hired are right along the ages of my own kids. So I see like how nervous my kids are for an interview, and I see, maybe how they've been treated at other jobs, and I'm like, that's not right. So I think it's a real honor to be the first place a child's employed, and we do a lot of things with the kids that I value as a parent. I want to make sure they're safe at work. Parents are going to send their kids to Deb's greenhouse and not have to worry about them. They're not going to do anything that's unsafe. They're going to be treated fairly. They're not going to get yelled at. If they walk in the door 10 minutes late, it's no big deal. Like, we're very accommodating. Teens have busy schedules. They play sports. They're in clubs. They are in drama. We work around that. We schedule them when it works. So If a kid has, basketball practice Tuesday, Thursday, we'll book them in maybe Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Right.
We're very accommodating. That I have teens myself, so that's just like with teenagers. When we send out the schedules, we send it out far in advance. We actually send it to their parent as well. And say, do you have any family vacations we should know about? Is there something coming up? Because then it's already taken care of. We're not scrambling. Kids will find out a Thursday they're going to a wedding Saturday. Maybe their families talked about it for a month and they just don't pay attention.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting because as we're talking about, there are drawbacks to hiring young people. You just listed a whole bunch. And I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you is around, if you acknowledge it and you can accommodate it, all of a sudden it's not really a drawback anymore.
No, you make a few changes to the schedule.
Yeah.
You find out what days their practices are. That's not a big deal. Like, we work every day. We can just put them on a different day. That doesn't matter.
So to the people who are listening and are thinking, oh, I just can't be bothered to go through the recruitment of finding, the 14-year-old who's never worked before and I have to train them. I'm curious to know, like, what would you say to that? Like, what are the benefits? If we can remove some of those logistics that sounds like pretty easily be managed.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of having this young workforce?
Oh, it's vibrant. Your workplace is vibrant. It's exciting. The kids will come in with ideas. We're very open to ideas. So if a kid comes in and says, I got this idea for this planter I want to make, I'm like, go make it.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to change the display, change the display. Like, you can't think of everything yourself. And these kids have fresh ideas. They are consuming way more ads online. They know what the consumer's looking for because they're seeing it. They're consuming it.
Yeah.
I mean, we train them to use their phones as tools. So they're looking up plants, they're finding out information, they're helping the customer with the phone. Like, we don't have a phone problem,
right?
Because we let them use it as a tool. We train them how to use it as a tool. They're making videos. The youth on our team all contribute to making our social media videos.
Right.
You know what the adults are reluctant to, and that's fine. Nobody has to make a video.
Yep.
But they'll come into work after school and say, I've got a great idea for a video.
Amazing.
I'm like, go for it.
There's so many different ways you can pay the young people. Curious to know if you can shed some insight into how you guys manage that.
There's a bit of a story, but I want to explain it because I think for employers, how you pay a teenager will affect how long they stay with you. We have a pay scale for teens. So we try to hire kids as early as grade 8 when they're 14. And then our goal is to keep them through university. And so far that's been effective. We haven't had anyone who started leave our business until they're done their university for their career. And it's seasonal, like it's not full time. So they might have other jobs during the other part of the year. Usually kids are 14 in grade 8, and we pay 15. As a production greenhouse, we could pay less in the farming industry, but we don't. We start at 15 for the teens. On their 16th birthday, they get $16 an hour.
Okay.
On their 17th birthday, 17, all the way till 20. And to get paid more than 20 at our garden center, you would have to take on more responsibility, do some paperwork.
Sure.
Yeah, which there's always lots of that. We're happy to share it with our team.
And there's no commission structure.
There's no commission.
Okay, cool. So you really got that team mentality around that. Okay.
And I had a child who worked for a couple of years at a fast food restaurant. And even though the minimum wage is 15, food industry can pay less than that. I think at $13.60 or something an hour.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was very frustrated that there was no opportunity to increase. Although his skill sets had increased,
of course,
greatly.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, a kid has worked with me a year, they're worth that $1 an hour. You bet it. Like, they are. We want them to leave with a really good toolbox.
Right.
And maybe because I'm a mom and I see this in my own kids and I'm very nurturing, and we mentor our team where we're not like the boss doesn't tell people what to do. It's a mentorship. Knowing that the young kids from grade 8 to, by the time they're done university, though they're going to leave us and go into their career, we want them to have a full toolbox. So we talk about labor laws with all of our young staff.
Right.
So they're not taken advantage of by other employers. We talk about, they don't even know what they're allowed for breaks.
Right.
Like, that they get paid breaks, and like, they just don't have that knowledge. So we teach them that. We have a handbook, and we send the handbook out every year. Teens may not know how to dress professionally for work. So that's very clear, laid out in our handbook. And I think that they just don't know what they don't know. And so having a handbook is really important. It's easy, Google Doc, you just email it.
Yep.
Update as needed or as laws change, right? Labor laws.
As you're trying to prepare young people for working, you're giving them a lot of tools that they will either need to work in your business or later on in life.
That's right.
So the handbook's a great one. I'm sure there's lots of on the floor, to use the retail term, of training.
Of course.
What else? What other kind of tools are you giving these employees?
There is one other thing that we offer is there's a health and safety program. Since COVID, it's been an online course. Before it was like a 2-day course, kind of like a first aid certificate. But this health and safety course never expires. So they can put that on their resume, and it actually gives them a leg up applying for any other position, because anywhere that you have multiple people employed, I think if you have 7 people employed, you have to have someone with this qualification at the job site. And although it's a minor thing, costs maybe $100 or so, it's a huge benefit to them. And it gives them confidence. Anytime you can, take them to the trade shows, take them to conferences, give them these extra courses, it builds them.
If I have an organization and I want to hire young people, how do I do that? What's some advice you could give me?
If you are actively trying to hire teens, you'll probably find them. There's lots of teens looking for jobs. Be accommodating with their family schedules and their social, sports schedules. But something they really, really love is if you have a snack cupboard at your work. And that might sound silly,
no, it's important.
But you can spend a couple $100 on snacks. Trust me, they come straight from school, they are hungry, and they don't have any food because they probably ate at lunchtime.
Yep.
Have some granola bars and some chocolate bars, and some juice on hand, water bottles, because they're going to forget food, or they're just not going to have any food.
I would actually extend that to all places of work. Now that I now work in a traditional office setting, first time in my entire career, really, and there's food there is mind-blowing to me, and it's lovely.
Even for myself, I'm like, I don't feel like walking to my house.
Totally.
I'll just eat a granola bar.
Yeah.
It sounds silly.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost you some money, but trust me, it will improve the culture tenfold.
Yeah, and productivity, because what kind of work are you doing when you're hungry? We're talking about this labor conversation, and it's really nuanced now. I think we can take a lot of stock and support in the fact that a lot of government agencies and all different levels of government are actually supporting us in this quest. So I just want to take a minute. I just want to highlight what some of those resources really look like for any organization that is looking for that support, because there's a lot of amazing things happening right now. So the first thing I would like to highlight is that there's the Alberta Business Grants. So there's workforce partnership grants, youth employment program, career launching, internship programs. And there's a whole bunch of grants that should be slated to be open again for 2025. And I know you mentioned that you use grants for students that actually help pay back the wages to your organization. So
we have access grants for underprivileged teens. We have access grants for youth employment, but in the farm sector, because we qualify for farm. But there are more opportunities if you're not a farmer for the youth employment grants, as well as the Green Certificate Program, which is a horticulture program for high school students to gain credits. And technically, you don't have to pay them for that. It is a volunteer program, but we always did pay those students. But it is an option.
I think one of the really impactful resources is the Government of Alberta. This is an organization that is really kind of geared into how effective the labor world is right now. And there's so many different business support opportunities for businesses to access those. So whether it's financial support or even training support, so definitely connect with a representative from that Ministry of Jobs, Economy and Trade, because they have so many different options that will ultimately help businesses be profitable and successful. Another one I'd like to highlight is Careers. So Careers works with Alberta schools and exactly what you were saying, to connect students to employers for paid internships. And I think, again, that exposure and that experience is so important. High school students learn and earn as they test drive different careers. So I think this is one of those things, exactly what you were saying, is that there are some learning curves that we have to anticipate when we're working with young people, and these grants are really important to promote that sort of opportunity and access for young people to experience the work world. LifeMark vocational services, so that's recruitment assistance, job board assistance, career exploration, assessment services. I think one of the things that I'm really noticing in this conversation, and something I would really value as an employee working on your team, is that it seems like you have my best interest at heart. Curious to know, like, what are some of those things that you go out of your way to make sure your employees are taken care of? Because I think that also helps with that recruitment and that whole story that you're telling about what sort of organization you're running.
So one of the things we do, and we're happy to do, is when our peak season slows down, which would be kind of the end of June, right when school wraps up, we know that a lot of these young teens are looking for summer employment. So that's just for July and August, until they go back to school again. But what we do is we actually make a big post on our social medias telling people just what I said, that we've got these great teens and they're hard workers. They're looking for summer employment. If you have any positions, let us know. And what happens is we are flooded with job opportunities. So what I do is I just take our group chat and I post them, and I let the teens contact these people themselves. Like, I don't give out, any private information, and they all get employment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. And it seems like something that we should all be doing, because right then and there, you're like a built-in referral. I love it on both ends. It's win-win. It's win for the other organization. And as a person who was trying to make as much money as they possibly can in their short window, you kind of have their back in that situation as well.
We definitely do.
I think a great resource really to start with is SturgeonCounty.ca/CatalystProgram. And I think this is one of those things that people can refer to time and time again and send it out to their networks, because I learned a lot, and I think other people are going to want to take this and implement it in their own business. And ultimately, we're here to support business growth, and we're here to support this economy. And I really appreciate your time in sharing that, because I think this is going to resonate with so many different businesses.
Thank you. I'm excited to see the rest of the videos in the series.